Well, hello, and thank you for tuning in to Redefining Real Estate. We have a great show today. We have Blake Timmons and Lyndon Wilson as kind of a standard fill-in. He's fantastic. So, guys, welcome to the show. We definitely appreciate you being on here today, and look forward to our talk today. Lyndon, I know you're here.
I am here. I was waiting for you to invite me
Introduce
in.
you. You know
Well,
what?
you kind of did, but I'm like, okay, is he going to say?
But
And now,
yeah,
now here is my buddy Lyndon Wilson. So
behind the curtain on the left, Lyndon Wilson. So no, I figured we've done this long enough that you knew the easy entry, but I will do formal introduction to you next time.
I would appreciate that. No, I'm kidding.
No,
I'm
no
kidding.
problem.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I need no introduction. So I don't know if that's a good thing or bad thing, but here I am.
Well, I'm so glad you're here. So we talk every day, and again, I think if you listen to the show long enough, you know that Lyndon and I have this ongoing, never stopping dialogue. So that carries out through the week. So we have some great talks, and I can just tell you, Lyndon, the learning, and there's a scripture that says, "Iron sharpens iron, just as one man to another." But that sharpening, learning, growing, challenging one another, I really wish everybody had, and they possibly do, but have those people in their lives that could be candid, that could speak the truth, and be so transparent that it actually strengthens you, it edifies you, it builds you up. Those are amazing relationships, and I know in my life that they don't come by very often. But once you find them, you want to make sure that you nurture that and protect that and keep it healthy. So
right.
let's get Blake on.
There is a certain nurturing about having those conversations every day. And I think that just with anything, I mean, if you've ever been in fitness, the more that you nurture yourself, the more that you take care of yourself in those ways, the healthier you become. And I think, Brian, for me, our relationship does that. It nurtures that part of my being that I'm looking to grow in. So I appreciate the friendship, and here is Blake Timmons.
Blake, how are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. How are you guys doing?
Fantastic.
So maybe we circle up and sing Kumbaya right now. I feel like you guys are having a moment that I'm intruding on.
Super duper. We are having a moment. We are. It's really emotional. I'm fighting tears.
So and the good thing about having a moment is when you guys, when we're sharpening one another, and just as you hit the gym, you notice that if you stay consistent with it long enough, you'll plateau, and then you bring in other things that you could do during the workout to spike or to change your muscle memory so it can grow again or strengthen some more. So hence the fact, Blake, you are on the show today because you know what? Not that we have plateaued, but we're always looking for fantastic people to have on here, to have the discussions on how did we start? How are we growing? What are some of the things that are propelling us on our day-to-day journey in order to reach more people, to impact more lives, and, like the scripture I posted today, to let your lights shine. So, Blake, tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an honor and privilege to be on, Brian. Thanks for asking me to be on today. And obviously, we're all also part of the difference, and I've known Lyndon here for, I guess, longer than both of us would like to acknowledge because it makes us feel old. But I own a financial brokerage, and we really come about it from a different way. And everyone says that, but being in the industry, I can actually truly know that that's a fact, that when we're sitting down and just helping out everyday middle income families, and we just really educate them on ways to get to places that they didn't think they could get. because their parents didn't get there and their parents didn't get there, and they're looking at the same deck of cards. But you know, they have the resources to get there. I know, Brian, you talk a lot about, you know, just different ways that people maybe haven't thought about, that they have the resources there, they just don't know it. And so in finance, we're able to sit down and really put a game plan together for people to get them somewhere that they didn't think possible with the resources that they already have in place. And so we really take pride in, you know, our market is different than most markets, which is 80% of America, just normal middle income folks that we're able to help out. And then just set a roadmap. And, you know, most people, if they're planning a trip to Florida, they actually sit down and they're going to figure out where they're going to go if they want to actually end up in Florida. Most people don't do that with their finances. They just hope and pray that one day they can retire. And it turns out that they never really get to that point because they didn't set a game plan right now. So we help people through that process.
Fantastic. So you mentioned something. You put that we approach it from a different way. And I really like that. And one of the reasons that we named Redefining Real Estate is that we do have a different approach. And we understand that we can articulate why we have the different approach. Who are we trying to reach? What are we trying to accomplish? Who are we trying to impact? And does it have a social impact? Does it have the social impact ramifications to it? And yes. So why is the different way so important to you, or what got you to look at this from a different way?
Well, I learned, and when I came on board, you know, people that were teaching me that, hey, the way we do things is so much better, and the way everyone else does stuff is not good. And, you know, I took that with a grain of salt. I was like, well, surely we're not that much better, and surely they're not that much worse. But what I learned is that, the financial industry can be a very corrupt industry. The life insurance industry can be even more corrupt. And so it really becomes a deal where you're not out just to make a living, you're out to correct an injustice. And there's a lot of people that have been taking advantage of. And the longer I've been in the industry, the more I've had these conversations that bring that truth to life even more. I've learned that a lot of, and I don't want to, you know, trash everybody. I'm sure there's, you know, there's great people that do it also, but a lot of them are trained on how to make money for themselves, right? They're going to sell these products that make them the most money. I don't have to worry about that. I'm able to run a business, to build a brokerage. And so I'm not necessarily worried about how much money I'm making on any individual sale. And we don't market, right? We spread like wildfire through word of mouth. So I sit down with somebody and I do what's right for them 100% of the time. I put them in a better situation. It's just math, right? People think finance is complicated. And, you know, I heard the other day, you know, people that are successful are going to learn to make the complicated simple. And that's really what we do. And it's not hard to do it because it was never designed to be complicated in the first place, right? 2 + 2 = 4. And there's all these concepts that I'm learning, that I have learned. I wish I would have learned them in high school, right? I had to learn algebra and geometry. I had to take calculus my senior year in high school. I don't have a clue what calculus is to this day. Haven't used it a day in my life. And I use money every single day. And it's almost, you know, I've talked to Lyndon about this before. It's almost like, what's the reason why we're not taught these simple concepts at an early age? And then it just so happens that people are really taking advantage of our ignorance as we begin to get older. It's almost like they don't want us to know these concepts. And so that's where I really begin to take pride in just common sense finance, on getting everyday Americans from point A to point B.
It's funny you said that, Blake, because I'm sitting there writing this down, and I have, y'all know that I was in credit repair for a long time, and I kind of saw the same thing. I saw the injuries that the overcomplication of finance had created for people. And Blake, I agree with what you're saying. I think, and this is my theory, I can't prove it yet, but I do believe that simple things at some point in time were overcomplicated, because if you complicate it and you and I and Brian do not understand it, we can be taken advantage of. Wealth has been generated off of complicating simple things. Okay. And not to bash our good friend Adam but lawyers have had a lot to do with this. Unfortunately, I love some lawyers, but I think that lawyers have come do what?
I said, yeah, Adam, stop taking advantage of us.
Right. So, but I think that, and so what's cool about listening to you, Blake, and what you're doing, and Brian and what he's doing, it's almost like, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is my analogy. This is my vision to see what you guys are doing. You guys are going into homes and you're looking through a toolbox that they have either inherited or they have kind of accumulated over time. And you're looking for those tools that they have not yet figured out how to use. And you're teaching them how to use those tools to get where they didn't know they had the tools to get to. Is that kind of simplifying what you guys are doing?
Great analogy. And yes, I believe that, some of the things that we look at that are very obvious to us, Lyndon and Blake, are not necessarily obvious to everybody else. And to be and we talked about this prior to the show, but to be a professional, and this is my personal opinion, but it is to have the ability to educate in order to bring about the revelation or the insight, the knowledge base, to increase that into our consumers, into the customers, so they will know the variety of options that they have to better their current position, to get into a better place for their family. So it's basically that revelation. Was it revealed to me? And then did I do a good job educating so that it's revealed to them that, hey, listen, you might already have the tools in your toolbox. You don't necessarily need to go acquire things. You just need to know how to use them and use them in this direction.
Absolutely. Do you think, though, do both of you think that there's been an intentional overcomplication so that I can tell, or so that we can make the consumer feel like that it's too complicated for us to understand? Therefore, I have to put my trust in someone that I may or may not know. And as Blake was saying earlier, then they get the opportunity to sell the product that makes them the most money because I think I don't understand. I believe it's so complicated, and there aren't people out there that are interested in simplifying it. I think that's what you guys are doing. Brian, when I attended your event a month or so ago, I was amazed, and I've been around this for 20 years, but it was explained in a way that we had this conversation this morning. You know how you just kind of don't see the vision for a while.
Mm-hmm.
And I sat there and I went, I could say it because we're not regulated, but I was you know what I said this morning?
Yeah.
Look at a donkey. That's why I'm like, oh my God, I've been a dumb for so long. And it made me feel even more dumb because I've been in the industry. Why did I not see this? But I had conditioned my mindset to believe it was more complicated than it really was.
Right. And I think just approaching it with new eyes is a healthy discipline. So one of the things, Blake and Lyndon, whenever I'd go into teaching, classes for real estate agents, I would have them raise their hand and say, when you walk into this class next week, what I'd like you to do is leave everything that you know at the door. So you would come in with fresh eyes and a fresh mind and a fresh heart, a mind to comprehend, a heart to receive, and eyes to see. So what happened there is that we would, and you're not going to leave everything at the door because that's it's not even possible to do that. But what you do is you begin to condition your mind and condition yourself to, what, I am opening up my ears to hear something new. I'm opening up my eyes to see something that I've never seen before. I'm opening up my mind to be able to conceive or understand or comprehend something that I wasn't able to comprehend prior. And I'm opening up my heart to receive. So when you do that and it becomes a declaration out of your mouth, your mind actually falls into place. There's actually a scripture that says that we are transformed, but by what? By the renewing of our mind. So how cool is that? That it was already written down for us in Romans chapter 12, verse 2, that we can be transformed by the renewing of our mind. And I think, Blake, you're spot on when you're talking about, you go in there and yes, have they complicated it? Yeah, there's a lot of people that have complicated it. Now, have they explained it properly? Maybe or maybe not. One of the things that I have a question for you guys: why do you think the things that are easy are made complicated by other people? And do you think they're doing it intentionally? Do you think they do it on purpose? What do you think the motives are to complicate a matter?
That's a great question. I would say, and this is something that I've actually thought about because there's a lot of times where the products that are sold are explained very ambiguously, and then you go and read the fine print and you realize that it's absolutely going to put them in a poor situation, the exact opposite situation of the reason that they actually sat down with the person to help them out. But I think that, there's two options in my head. There's either evil or there's ignorance. And I think it's both. So I think that it's evil at the top because they know exactly what they're doing. But then if they're bringing on, these new young people and they're training them up in this way, then there's ignorance right there. And so they're trained. They don't know anything different. They know exactly what they've been taught. And then they go out and they try to make a living for their family off a product that is not going to put the families that they're helping out in the best situation. And Lyndon, you talked about, what you think about it, but not really being able to prove it. I think that I can prove that. So when I used to always hear, before I got into finance, I used to always hear, people talking about like a 7% rate of return, and people, be careful. No one can guarantee you 7. That's got to be extremely high risk stuff. And then I got into finance and realized that that's absolutely not true. And here's the thing: people take advantage of that and get people in these just get 3% back on your money, or hey, put it in the bank and get 0.006% back on your money. But then if it's so risky to go and get 10, 11, 12% back on your money, then why does the bank do it every day? The bank is in the business of just gambling and taking massive risks? No, they're in the business of making money.
Great
and they know
point.
exactly what the opportunities are out there, and they do not want us to know about it. And so if now I know, there's mutual funds that have, without getting into too much specifics, 13% over 70 years is out there. So, you show me something that's done something over 70 years, I'd say, I enjoy taking risks. I'm pretty sure, all these banks don't want to take as much risk as I'm willing to take because they don't have to, but they're still getting a far better rate of return on their money than they're offering you, and they're getting rich off of it.
So that brings me to something you said, and I've said this a lot. I've said this a lot about politicians. I think that there are two things: it's corruption or incompetence, right? But I think that just listening to both of y'all, I would like to add arrogance. I think there's an arrogance to certain people at higher levels because they think they know better. They look at ways that they can make money, and they just assume that if you follow this, like you said, Blake, and you take that 2% or that 0.0006, you're better off. I'm going to look out for your best interest, but at the same time, you're going to pay me a lot to look out for your best interest. And I think that I think that they are well-intended people that are doing that. And they think that it's a win-win, but one person's winning a whole lot more than the other. Like you're talking about, the banks are just, nothing wrong with banks. I'm not bashing them. Would love to have one sponsor our show, but especially since they're making 13, 14% on their money, right? Or our money,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. So I think that they're well-intended, but I'm not sure that I know it's not beneficial to the rest of us. So what's putting money in their pockets really not putting money in ours. So that's just my 2 cents. Thank you very much.
No,
Okay,
absolutely.
so
Go ahead, Brian.
So we have and we've talked about there are people that are unscrupulous and evil, and I understand that there's arrogance and corruption out there. I get that. But what happens when we overcomplicate something because we get excited about the deep dive technicalities the intricacies of how all this stuff works. Could that still be lumped up into it's complicated?
I think it's, I personally, I think it's another form of arrogance. I think that we overcomplicate it as professionals because we want to show everybody how smart we are. And there's an old thing out there that says, KISS, keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
I think that, do what?
Go ahead, Linda.
I think that if we just step back, and Brian, we've had that conversation about being on the beach in the shallow water, in the mid water, and into the deep water. And I think some of us like that deep water. We love that talk. We love the intricacies of all the details. And sometimes we want to show everybody what we've figured out. And when we do, the switch flips in some people's head and they cut us off. They're not listening anymore because we all want the Cliff Notes. We want the simplified version of how I get better.
Okay, I'm gonna add something here. So it not necessarily arrogance, because I'm gonna say gently push back on that deal, but there's really no gently about it. I'm gonna push back a little bit on the arrogance.
Go.
So because I think that the deep water at times, Lyndon, feels good. It really does. The endorphins, the creativity, the innovation, the ingenuity. When we get into, oh my gosh, because I fall in that trap of packing 10 pounds of sausage in a 5-pound bag because I love this stuff. And when I'm passionate about it, doesn't mean that I'm arrogant. It just means that it feels really good. When we can break down, let's just go and let me get into a deep dive here. You go to Matthew 5:16. I posted that on my Facebook today. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. If we wanted to go and study the Greek and then get back into the real translation, you can go deep and deep and deep into just that one scripture and get a lot of revelation, which is fantastic. I love that stuff, but that's how I was taught, and that's what I gravitate to. So learning how to simplify a process has been extremely beneficial and advantageous for me personally, because I do take the complicated out, but sometimes when we talk about getting into the weeds, and then that becomes more of a distraction, even though it feels good, and I need to keep it simple over there. So I don't know if it's necessarily arrogance for everybody. Some people just really like that deep dive in there.
Oh, I'm not going to argue that point, but I think that there are the arrogant parts, and some people are, but I think the ones that aren't, I think they enjoy the deep dive as much as anybody else, but they also realize that in order for me to, I have to translate the deep to the shallow. And I don't mean that disparagingly against people that we're talking to, that they're ignorant, but ignorance is not a negative thing. It just means we don't know yet. Right. And
Right.
so if you have gone to the deep end of the pool and you have perfected that, I think we have an obligation to come back and simplify it. And Brian, you've talked about this. We want to start on the beach. We want to go to the shallow water. We want to help them. It's kind of like teaching a kid to swim, right? You don't start in the deep end. So you start in the shallow end, and as they get better and more confident, they go to the deep end, and we work from there. What I'm talking about in arrogance is the people that want to go to the deep end and keep it complicated without sharing the simplicity with the people that don't quite understand the complexities yet. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely.
So that they will have an advantage in negotiations or whatever it may be.
Yeah. Gotcha.
What Lyndon's talking about is jumping in the deep end and then having the people that don't know how to swim in the deep end jump in with them just so they can show off that they can swim in the deep end, and then they don't know how to yet, right? And
yeah, so, and I'll save you in the deep end, and now I'm a hero.
Yeah, exactly. And I would just say, because I mean, obviously, I think basically you guys agree with each other, because I agree. If you are passionate about something, it feels good to dive into the Greek and know the origins of where this came from and the context of it, who he was speaking to and the way they would have heard it, all those kinds of things. I love that kind of stuff too, Brian. But then the more of an expert you become on it, then it's actually the more of an expert you become, the easier it is to simplify it and teach it. And so
Great point.
It's one thing to pursue the knowledge, but then to come back and, if you just went out and vomited all that knowledge on somebody else, they'd probably be like, all right, dude, chill out. All right.
Yeah.
If you taught it to them and piqued their interest on a simple level, then they'd probably come along with you. Right. In fact, Jesus didn't, just come along and invite, his disciples fishing he didn't, reveal to them all these great mysteries and truths and parables. They've been like, what the crap are you talking about, dude? He just said, hey, just, come on, follow me. And, we'll learn some stuff along the way. And then eventually he revealed to them these truths that they probably still didn't understand in the beginning.
Have you ever heard that song? That's funny. Have you ever heard that song, She Thinks We're Just Fishing, or He Thinks We're Just Fishing, the country song? So it's about, all right. So
is it a father and a son?
Yeah. All right. So the song is he's talking about all the things that are happening and that the kid thinks that they're just fishing. And it just made me think, Blake, that's kind of what Jesus did. He goes, let's go fishing. Then he gets out there and he starts talking and, there's really no place for him to go. They can't leave, right? They can't walk on water. Right. So he has a captive audience. I don't know. I got off track a little bit, but I'm like, oh, wow, that's kind of cool. And that is simplifying it in that way. And Brian, I do agree with Brian. And I think that is the leadership approach. There's an acronym that I came up with. I think I came up with it. I've not heard it anywhere else, but it's called TAP, T-A-P, time and place. And I think for the entrepreneurial world and the leaders in it, we understand when to have the deep conversations and when to have the shallow, non-complicated conversations as leaders. Our job is to learn how to get the attention. And in both of what you guys are doing, I think from a consumer standpoint, whether it's finance or whether it's buying a home and investing in a home, I think that, and I've watched these events hosted and sometimes have a low turnout. And I think it's because people are afraid to go because it's going to be too deep and too complicated. Mm-hmm. And I think that in a marketing perspective, and I know you both do this, if I'm going, oh, this is finance simplified, Blake is going to explain it in layman's terms so that I can understand it. I don't have to feel like a dummy. I'll just say that. Man, I want to say that other word so bad. And Brian, the same way. We've been buying homes. We've had a place to live our whole life. And for some of us, we think it's just the really smart people that know how to leverage that real estate. And right. and you are not only in your events simplifying it, but you're even marketing it so that people know coming in, I'm going to go in there and they're going to simplify what it is that I felt my whole life is too complicated for me to get involved in.
Yeah. And one of the things on that, just on the seminar note and how we've structured it, is to bring that educational piece. And we actually segment it out into, it's 90 minutes, but we have the first 30 minutes is, a different, and then we transition into the second 30 minutes is the second piece of it taught by someone else. So it actually becomes very palatable. And it's not just this 90-minute of, like what you said, just vomiting information on people, but it is strategically placed where you have a 25-minute slot or 30-minute slot, then you have another 30-minute slot. And then we also, what I have found that is really beneficial and has accelerated our seminars is bringing in the group of people. Now it's not lecture from one or two people, but now it's a group of people that have the same interest in helping you. So now when you're tackling finances, for instance, Blake, where we all need money, we understand we need money, we need a retirement account, we need a savings account, but can you tell me how am I supposed to pay my bills when I'm paying X amount of money into my retirement, X amount of money into my savings? And then you tell me, oh my gosh, I have to have reserves and 6 months of an emergency fund. Oh my gosh, this gets overwhelming. And then you're going to tell me about college funds, and then you're going to tell me about these health benefits, and then insurance, and then I'm out. I've spent 30 seconds in there way too long, and I'm just totally done. All I need to do is pay my bills. I need to make sure that my family's all right. And hopefully by the end of the year, we're going to save enough money to go on vacation. And I know a lot of people are like that, even with houses. But when you bring in a team of people that say, hey, listen, we've done this for our lives, and we're going to help you. I think, Lyndon, when you went to that seminar, didn't you find that the guest panel that we brought in, the expert panel, was a highlight of that seminar?
I did, because it showed some diversity. And as a consumer sitting in the audience and really watching everybody else and how attentive they were, what I took away from that, Brian, was that there was options. People realized that there were options. Okay. You're talking about how to find money in property and how to reinvest that money. And it wasn't just one way that you were going to reinvest it, that all you guys were going to make money on. There were multiple ways. And so it touched the different parts of the different people, because sometimes it's not a cookie cutter. And I think that's what we feel like. I think that's the overcomplication. I'm going to go in and they're going to show me how to find money and use money, but it's going to be in a way that I'm uncomfortable and unfamiliar with. And even though they're willing to teach me, I'm still uncomfortable and unfamiliar. But when in your seminar, these multiple ways, I mean, I'll be honest, one stuck with me. One really hit me hard, and it was the fact that with a investment property, in 15 to 18 years, you could put 2 kids through school, and someone else basically paid that tuition because they were paying for the investment property, right?
Mm-hmm.
So tell me, and I've said this before, is there any way possible that I could get someone to fund my buying stocks for me over the next 15 years? That answer would be no. I'm thinking, right. Well, yeah, unless you know somebody, because I'll sure ask them. But
Blake will do it.
Yeah, I mean, he's already taking care of part of it. So anyway, so that stuck with me because that was something that I could understand and relate to. And it's got, I think we got to remember that's part of the simplicity. Is it relatable? Is it relatable? Because if it's not relatable, I'm still going to struggle grasping what it is that you're selling in that manner.
I'll say, Lyndon, you actually can do that. All you got to do is run a business that creates residual passive income, and then people are paying for whatever the crap you want to do with your money, right? But to go back, I think the cool thing about the way that me and Brian operate is you can't expect to just sit down with people and they just trust you like that, right? And I think that's the bad thing about the people that they sit down and they overcomplicate it and they kind of tell them this stuff, and person's kind of confused and like, I know finances. Let's go ahead and go with this. And they're like, okay. And then they walk out and they don't know what hit them. Here's what people do trust. They trust that 2 + 2 = 4. And so if I can sit down and just show them actual numbers, then there's no sleight of hand here that, oh, well, that makes complete sense. That math adds up. And that's what we do in finance. And that's what Brian's doing in real estate, where you can sit down and everyone knows good, solid 3rd grade math, and they can all understand this, and that's where you're taking the complicated and simplifying it to where people know that you're actually doing what's right for them.
So
right.
What I'm hearing real quick, Brian, I'm hearing from both of you is in your you're simplifying the complicated, you are showing transparency. You're showing right. The how. You're pulling back all the layers, and in complicated situations, it's not transparent. It's never transparent because it can't be. There's too much to be transparent about. And that's where we're uncomfortable. And we put our trust in people sometimes, Blake, as you said, because we're being pushed, we're being rushed. And so we have to make a quick decision. Is this person trustworthy? And we don't know if they are or not. It's a gamble. It's a risk. And we're adding risk to risk, right? Because now I'm having to trust somebody I don't know to risk my money. And so the transparency part, I think, is what, and that's, Brian, that's what y'all gave. at that seminar, everybody explained it in such a way that you could see from point A to point Z. And trust is the factor, Blake. I agree with you 100%.
And I think that when we're looking at becoming a better professional, and I know that this is something that I challenge myself with. I always want to become better. I want to become a better communicator. I always want to be a lifelong learner. I want to always be coachable. I surround myself with the people that will help me get better in my career. So now when I meet with a Blake, or I meet with a Lyndon, or I meet with someone else, the work that I put in it and put into myself in the background actually looks easier and simplified when I get in front of my customer or the client or the prospect, because I'm able to articulate it. And I think that's really important for us to extract here. It's not just having a deep dive knowledge of your industry. I think that's important. But it's also being able to have the skill set to communicate it effectively, to be able to articulate it in a way that is simplified to your audience, that they can grasp it quicker and be able to run with it and get quicker results.
I agree with that. And I think that we have to be aware of what it is that they're looking for us to be transparent and what they're looking to have simplified. I think that it goes back, and that's what I really admire about both of you, is that introspection, that self-awareness, and the willingness to go and study how to deliver it better, how to deliver it more effectively. Because I think that we, in many industries, we get caught up in, we go through the sales training, we go through all of this, they give us the script, and the script is the script. It doesn't take into account a lot of times of what the questions and what the concerns are and the anxieties are of the person that's sitting across the table from us. And so that person has no clue how to simplify it, how to drill down and really be aware of what that person's concerns are and be able to address that in a transparent manner. You guys both are really good at that. And one reason I know you are is because I have these conversations with you sometimes on a daily basis, sometimes on a weekly basis, but you're always looking how to deliver it better.
Yeah, and I think transparency is a really good way to think about it, because I know actually a whole lot of financial products, specifically life insurance, that would never get sold if there was full transparency about how it worked. And so part of my job is to come in, and I got to be transparent about the stuff that they have, and study that and know my competition, just like you're studying, your opponent in film, Lyndon. And then also come and be transparent about what I'm trying to help them with. And so the transparency is what builds the trust. When the trust doesn't, you don't come in with the trust, you kind of have to earn that. And so if you're willing to peel back the layers and say, hey, I'm going to simplify this for you. This is how this works. This is the 2 + 2 = 4. And then they're like, oh, well, yeah, that makes all the sense in the world. No matter what you're doing, that's extremely important for people to know that you're not just out to make a buck, that you're passionate about what you're doing, and that you are actually concerned about helping other people, that you wouldn't feel comfortable laying your head on the pillow at night if you knew that your entire business was basically just taking advantage of people. And sadly, what we're talking about, that does happen a lot. And so they got to know that you have their best interest at heart. And if you focus on that first, obviously, you'll grow a successful business.
If you give them what they want, you'll get what you want.
Absolutely.
So we're going to transition, and I want to throw you guys a curveball here, but we're going to transition into what should people expect from the results that they get from meeting with you. So being transparent, simplifying the process, what are the results that they should expect? And even the process, or is it progressive? Is it immediate? So some of those things I want to talk about. But first of all, I want to give a shout out to our show sponsor, Bavette Grill. And I mentioned this before, but they are a fantastic restaurant. They are located in Plano, Texas at 8100 North Dallas Parkway. And you need to just check them out and mention that you've heard Bavette Grill on Redefining Real Estate, and they're offering you a free appetizer. But fantastic. I got to know the family. I got to know the owners there. My wife and I have been there a couple of times, and we love it. So we're actually going to go and make some reservations to get back in there and see them again. So thank you guys for checking out Bavette Grill in Plano, Texas.
So I want to, Blake, if you don't mind, I want to take that question that he had first, because it's something that's near and dear to me. It's kind of why I created the difference in the first place. And Brian, your question is what should they expect after they meet you the first time, right?
Correct.
I think, and this is something that I have worked on, studied on, taught on, and am committed to. But you guys know that part of what I work and help people on is branding. I think that they need to know what to expect before they ever meet you. That needs to be part of your brand, and it needs to have sold itself. Your brand, your marketing, your advertising, Blake and Brian, have to be tied to that transparency. So when they meet you, they know what to expect you're going to say, and when they leave from you, they can expect to get what you told them they were going to get, and no surprises in the end. You have to deliver what you're promising. I think that, and the transparency is going to go a long way in your marketing. If it's transparent, we're going to simplify the financial process. We're going to simplify the home buying investment process. That's what they're expecting when they sit down with you. When you talk about your product, you're going to simplify it for them. So when they leave there, they're going to feel more informed, more intelligent about that particular area. And that is, I believe, where they get the trust. What are your thoughts on that, Blake? Follow me up.
No, I think that's an excellent point. As far as, and what you help people do, Linda, I think is extremely important as far as the reason that you're sitting there doing business with them in the first place is because they already have an idea of what to expect. And perhaps they've even reached out to you with the transparency in which you've branded yourself, the genuineness, and they see that, and that's the kind of person they want to do business with. And so, yeah, I think the front end branding and the front end expectations are extremely important. So I think that, you went a different direction with that, Lyndon, but I think that's an excellent point. To go the opposite direction on that, to fast forward, in our situation, Brian, it would be long-term would be financial independence. And that's something we're extremely passionate about. And I talked to you a little bit about this earlier. There's a lot of people that don't really think it's feasible to ever achieve financial independence because they're just normal, everyday folks. And what's the crazy thing is, and what we're talking about, they already have the resources to do it. They just don't have the game plan put in place. And so that's what we enjoy doing. And even from another angle, on me and my buddy Nathan's show, we talk a lot about entrepreneurship. And the other thing that I'm extremely passionate about is teaching other people how to build their own business, which is honestly a faster way to financial independence. That also, the way we operate, we give anybody with the desire and a little bit of toughness the shot to go into business for themselves. And that's something that people can expect when they're sitting down with me also to talk about just having a more of an open mindset and breaking away from societal norms that they've been taught and just having an entrepreneurial mindset.
That's excellent. So one of the things that I looked at, and I had a buddy that shared this with me years ago, it was the truth and lie. And I created a table from it, but the lie is energized by fear. It leads to insecurity. It leads to lack of confidence. And then you just feel stuck. And I think a lot of people have gotten into situations or financial planning situations that they were sold a bill of goods. And guess what? They just feel stuck at the end. So now there's like, well, none of that works. Well, it does. But what Blake and Lyndon, we all talk about this all the time. But when we go in and we tell somebody the truth, and we just map it out. Hey, listen, these are the facts, and this is what's going on. Then truth, when it's energized by love, it leads to security, it leads to confidence, and it leads people to liberty, or being independent and freedom. Because again, let's go back to the Bible, and you look at, they shall know the truth, and the truth shall set them free or make them free. It can be a principle as well. Anytime it's led by truth, energized by love, then you begin to build security. And Blake, I know this, from financial planning, but when you sit down with somebody and make a plan, you're actually, hey, listen, I'm telling you the truth. It's energized by love because I want to make sure that you guys know that your life matters and your family matters. And they should feel a bit of security, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. I love that. Truth energized by love. Is that your quote?
Well, no, my buddy gave it to me, but it was years ago, so I've just adopted it. So it's truth, it's energized by love, it leads to security, and then the next phase it leads to confidence. So once you're secure in something, and you got there. I got into the gym, and I learned how to use the weights, and I learned how to use the machines, and I learned how to work out my workout plan, and I felt secure about it. And the more I did it, I felt confident. I started growing. The more I grew in my confidence and continued in the gym, it led to liberty and freedom. Now, if I go into a gym, it doesn't matter what gym I go into, guess what? I'm good. Even if your machines look different, I'll still be able to adapt really quick. So I think the same is true in the financial realm, just as much as it is in real estate. I buy a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage on a corner lot. That's fantastic. Well, if I bought 3 of those and I gained the confidence, what would a 5-bedroom, 3.5-bath, 3-car garage look like? It's just a little bit bigger house, right?
Right.
But I still should have confidence in it, whether it's an investment property or it's my primary residence. I might not be really confident about an apartment complex now because I haven't been told the truth, the game plan. I don't know if it was energized by love, but truth will be energized by love, and that I'm not secure in it. So when those things happen, we figure out. So my job is to help give you the truth in the game plan, so it's energized by right motives in the love, and it leads to your security, your confidence, and then your liberty. So it's my take on it.
Yeah, no, I love that, and it's kind of a different, coming in from a different angle, because something I talk about on our show is there's about 45 million people that thought they had security in this life, that just realized that security doesn't actually exist. But really, it was that's a good point, because you can have a certain level of security, not total. I mean, we might, I might die tomorrow. Now I have security in my salvation, but there's different forms of security and uses of the word. But really what I mean when I say that is they were sold something that they thought was secure, that was not secure at all, because they didn't have control over that. And so I like the way you're talking about security and the truth, energized by love, is that if it's developing like this trust that we've been talking about, that somebody has your right motives, they're being transparent, and they're showing you the way, and you begin to build your confidence in that. That's a different idea, of security. So yeah, I love that, Brian. That's a great. I'll probably steal that quote from you and adopt it as mine.
Absolutely, please do. Because I really believe more people need to learn that. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys a question. Just sitting here listening to and I love that too, but the energized by love part, can we not see that when we are in the consumer's shoes and we see the person that's talking to us, it comes out in their passion for serving and helping us. I mean, Blake, you talk about the trust, and I think that sometimes as consumers, we get into a desperation mode where we act a lot faster than maybe what we should. But I think that if we took the time to look at the person that is helping us that is serving us, that is finding a solution to a problem that we either knew existed or didn't know existed. Can we talk? Can we determine that they are energized by love, by their passion and how they're serving us? I mean, you can be super energized because you're thinking about how big of a commission you're going to get once the sale's done. So there's a difference in having that enthusiasm and energy and being energized by love. And that's where the passion is. I think that's where, for me, and listening to both of you, I think that if I, from now on, moving forward, I'm going to be looking at the person that's trying to sell me, and they're energized by love is going to be, are they being transparent? Are they taking the time to simplify it to help me feel good about this transaction?
Perfect, Lyndon. And let me segue into that. So are they energized by love or are they energized by fear? So remember, a lie is energized by fear, leads to insecurity, lack of confidence, and then you're stuck. So when you look at somebody selling things, and I've had this before, and have it happen to me, when people are selling things out of fear, oh my gosh, you need to do this or it's going to go away, I'll let it go away. I'm like, if it's not going to last more than 48 hours, guys, I definitely don't want to buy it today, because what if it disintegrates in 72 hours? It was silly to me. But a lot of those impulse buys, and I can tell you, I can raise my hand and tell you that I bought it because I thought, oh my gosh. And I know that in sales, we are taught to create an urgency or people won't do it. But is it led by truth and love? Or, hey, listen, you know what? I would love for you to start now at 18 years old in investing and learning about houses, because when you're my age, fast forward 31 years, you are going to be in such a better place. Now, is that an urgency? Well, it really is. But what if you started when you're 20? It's still fine. You just missed out on 2 years of appreciation and knocking down your principal and building more equity. But can you make it? Absolutely. So there's not a fear factor. So when you're looking at that, Lyndon, is it energized by love or is it energized by fear? You can feel the difference. You literally can sit in that appointment and feel love or feel fear.
Yes, you're going to leave a lot of times either feeling like you're going to be wondering, did I just get a good deal or did I just get screwed? And if that's how you feel, you were energized by fear. And Brian, you're talking about the urgency. I believe that if you are transparent and you're honest and you can explain it in a simple way, that automatically creates urgency because they believe. They believe this is good for me. There's no reason why I don't need to start now. That's the true urgency, I think. Mm-hmm. What do you guys think about that?
I think what you're talking about as far as the fear, we call that commission breath, right? So if you can smell the commission on the guy, his desperation, he's got to have it, then he's concerned about, putting food on the table for his family, which is fine, but that means that he's not concerned about you. So automatically you take a step back and say, well, he's pushing this on me to make money, not because it's necessarily best for my situation. But what I love about what we do, and this applies to both of us, I think, Brian, is I love investing in someone's life and creating a relationship. We're talking about important life-changing things right here. And so a part of building the trust and then being transparent is building the relationship. And I think that's a lot of what business comes down to, is actually just a genuine concern for people, investing in their lives and developing relationships, and take that back to, all of what we're doing is for a bigger purpose, what we talk about, Brian, and that's what God created us for, is these relationships in these communities. And so we're not just out here doing something to make money. This is an extension of our entire life, and it's all involved in the way we live our lives and the relationships we build with the people that we're encountering on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
I agree with that. Go ahead, Brian. Okay. So I really believe that in Blake, and what you're saying is that for me, one of the things that drives me, and it did in credit repair, is in 10 years from now, is this person that I'm helping going to look at me and go, my life is better today, 10 years later, because of the day you helped me. If we can't answer that question with a positive, then we're selling for ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. They should be in a better position because they cross paths with you.
Right.
A couple of days ago, I had a guy. I've seen him at the gym numerous times over about a year and a half, actually. And you know, it's the commonalities of you just wave and nod your head and you just go about your workout. Well, he took the time to come up to me, and we had a great conversation. I missed part of my workout, but it didn't hurt me because I actually made a friend, and it was fantastic. But one of the things that out of his mouth, and I think it's a great reminder, was the golden rule. And we were talking about it in our society. Just do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Just be a good person. Be that good human. Be understanding. And I know that we have Holly Haggard on.
Yeah, I was going to say, you just gave Holly a shout out there. So
well, we're going to give Holly a lot of shout outs because she's fantastic. So, but being that person that has a heart for other people and doing good and letting your light shine, I think it's really important. And I noticed even on all the people that you have on the difference, Lyndon, on the different shows that you have some fantastic, or I'm going to put me in the bucket because I'm in it. We have some fantastic people, great hearts, innovative, creative, fantastic entrepreneurs. And I want to see this grow more because you put my light and you put Blake, your light, and Lyndon, and we have Holly, and we have James Kern and Stephen Pine, etc. We could go on and on. But you put us all together, guess what? That light becomes a bonfire. And now when that truth is energized by love and it has a team behind it, that's fantastic. And that's what I want us to continue to build. Blake, you included, is to continue to build this team of people that it's not just you, Blake, doing financial planning and working with your customers, but it's you, Blake, doing it with a team of other people behind you or beside you that you're introducing these people to, and me as well, introducing you to mine. Because when we build that and we're creating this, then we create the tipping point, and then we get into critical mass where we're actually making a significant impact and a societal change or societal transition into, you know what, this is a pretty good group to be a part of. This truth and love and security and confidence and not being stuck, being liberated and being free. I just want to raise my hand. I actually want to raise both hands, but I'm not going to do it. It's look a little awkward on my radio show. But we raise our hand and we say, hey, listen, I want to be a part of that group. And it's the difference.
It is. And we have a lot of difference makers. And I'm really blessed to have met so many incredible people through the difference platform and get super excited about how we all, I think we talk about the iron sharpens iron. We really are doing that for each other. We are realizing that business can be done in that transparent, energized, and love way. And we all are. I think we've had a lot of self-reflection. Not that we weren't doing it before, but it's kind of like when you do have that accountability or you do have that awareness within a group, we're all looking at it. We're going, wow, Blake Timmons is getting it right. Brian Dobbs is getting it right. Holly Haggard is getting it right. I want to up my game. I want to level up because it is the difference. It is the difference in how we treat people and how we are. And I can't thank you guys enough for being a part of this and what you're doing, the way you're bringing your shows and to people and the messages that you're bringing, because it is making a difference for so many people. So thank you guys for that.
Well, Blake, thank you so much for being on our show today. And we need to, again, have you back. We'll do this more. So we're super excited about growing our team and growing different people to being on the show. And again, Blake, I can't tell you thank you enough, and how much I appreciate what you do and how you're letting your light shine and making an impact on all the people around you.
Hey, absolutely, Brian. I had a blast, man. Thanks for inviting me on. And let's, as we said, let's continue to grow it, man.
Yep, we will. So, Lyndon.
Yes, sir.
It's time to
time to say goodbye.
Sign off.
Happy trails.
Until next week.
All right.